Hello, welcome to Java Programming Tutorials, Chapter 8, Part 2, Control Statements, brought to you by Ankpro Technologies. My name is Harish. So in this session, we are going to learn about the control statements in Java. So in the last session, we learned about the selection statements, and in this session, we are going to start about the iteration statements for while and do-while loops. So let us jump into for loop. For loop consists of three categories: simple for loop, for each loop, and labeled for loop. And then we are going to learn while and do-while loop. So first, we are going to understand the for loop. So let me show you a demo of for loop. So for loop, it looks like this. Let me initialize a variable and let me iterate that variable. Let me pass a condition to that variable whatever initialized there, and let me iterate that variable. So this is how it looks. So now system dot out dot print ln. So I'm going to print I. So now when I run this piece of code, it's going to print from 0 to 9. So if you know like at what point, at what is the set, if you want to iterate, then you have to go with the for loop. Okay, this is what the simple for loop. And now we'll learn the other side of for loop, that is for each loop. So why do we need a for each loop? It's very simple. So for each loop, it is used to traverse the collection. Suppose if you have a collection and if you want to traverse to that collection, then you have to go with this for each loop. And it's very easy to use the for each because we don't need to increment value or use subscription notation there. So let me show you that also. Let me remove this, and first let me initialize array. So this is my array, and if you don't know like how to initialize it, don't need to worry because we have a separate session to learn the array. And now for, okay, how do we initialize that? How do we go with this int I, iterate this array, and again print ln. So we have to print the I. So now let me run this piece of code, and you can observe, okay, this array is iterated, so it's printing it in the console. You can observe very clearly here. So 12, 45, 70, 89, 52. So if you want to iterate the array, then we have to use the special type of array for loop, that is for each loop. So this is how you have to initialize a variable int I, then colon, you have to pass the array name. So it's then we are when I print I, okay, it's going to iterate this array collection. This is what the type of for loop, that is for each. And we have other set, that is labeled for loop. We can give a name to a for loop, and keep in mind, to give a name we have to use a label keyword. We have to use a label there. So let me show you how to create a for loop, a labeled for loop. It's very simple. So now let me jump here. So it comes here. So let me show you how to do that. So let me push it down, this console window bit down. And now what I'll do is, first let me call my label for int I is equal to 1, then I is greater than 3, then I'm going to iterate it as I plus plus. So, and now inside that, let me take another for loop. So let me copy and paste just to save the time. Okay, now here I'm going to tell like if I repeat, if I is equal to 2 and ampersand, okay, j is equal to, or my second iteration is x is equal to 2. Okay, I'm telling like you have to come out of the loop. Okay, how to come out of the loop? I'm going to use something called break. Okay, break the outer loop, that is Sam. So to the outer loop I have a name called Sam, to the inner loop I have a name called Ram. So I'm breaking that one. Okay, and now what I need to do is, after this I need to print system dot Okay, I need to print the outer loop, that is I. That is X. So now let me run this program. So you can observe here it's printing just these things because we are I'm telling there like if okay the outer loop, because I have two loops here, nested loops, for loops. So the concept we have to understand here is to the for loop we can assign a name. Okay, label, we can assign a label. So if my outer for loop, the label name is Sam, to the inner for loop the label name is Ram. So you can work with these things also. That is what the funda of this. So we have three types of for loop: simple, for each, and labeled for loop. Now we are going to learn about while loop and do while loop. So now let me jump to while loop. It's very simple. Let me show you now itself. So while loop, so while loop, it is used to iterate a part of the program several times. If the number of iterations is not fixed, so as in the for loop we know the number of iterations, but if you don't know the number of iterations, it is used to use while loop. If you pass true in the while loop, it will be infinite while loop. So let me show you that also, how to work with while loop. It's very simple. So now let me jump to Eclipse. So first I need to initialize a variable int while, or let me take int I is equal to 1. Then while I'm going to specify the condition I is less than 10. Okay, so what it has to do is it has to system dot out println. So I plus plus. So this is what the while loop. So now when I run this piece of code, you can observe here we are getting the values printed from 1 to 9. So we don't know. So if you don't know, okay, if the number of iterations is not fixed, then we have to use while loop. So this is how you'll make use of while loop. You can observe here very clearly. And now what I need to show you is infinite loop. Suppose what I'll do is let me show you this one. If you pass true in the while loop, it will be a infinite while loop. So what do you mean by that? So in the sense, if I pass here true, so I'll just print hello if it is true. So now when I run this piece of code, okay, you can observe here it's an infinite while loop. You can observe here the cursor tumbling there. So this is an infinite while loop. So let me remove this. So now let me close this one. And now, so when I press Ctrl C, so this is gonna execute right now. So let me close this Eclipse right now and let me, okay, this is what about while loop. And now we are going to learn about the do while loop. So do while loop, it is used to iterate a part of the program several times, and if the number of iterations is not fixed, and you must have to execute the loop at least once. It is executed at least once because the condition is checked after the loop body. In the sense, do while loop is going to execute at least once if the condition fails. So that we are going to learn right now, and let me check out like how it works there. So this is my control statements. Right click on that. This is my control statements project. I need to add a class there. So let me add a class. So sorry for this. Let me add a class. So the class name is sample. I need to add a method. So let me show you how do while looks or how it works. So it's very simple. So let me remove this as of now. So first I'll tell like int I is equal to 0 and do this piece of code, that is system dot out dot println. So what it has to do is it has to print I at least once, and now what I'll do is I'll increment it, but but the thing is, what I'll do, I'll specify the condition at the last. So I is less than 5. So here is I'm specifying the condition. Now when I run this piece of code, it works very well and it prints, okay, 0 1 2 3 4. Suppose if I tell like I is greater than 5, because I value of I is 0. 0 is never greater than 5, but what happens is when I run this program, it prints 0 at least once, because we are specifying the condition at the last, but we are telling the do block to do print the I at least once. So keep in mind, if you're using the do while, it's going to execute at least once. Okay, this is the specialty of do while loop. So this is what we learned in this session about the control iteration statements. They are for loop, while loop, and do while loop. So finally, thank you for listening. Have a great day. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel Ankpro Training. You can also like our Facebook page with links URL. You can also follow us on Twitter. For the reference, refer our website. We are on LinkedIn too. Last but not the least, please don't forget to give the feedback. Thank you. Have a great day.